Dick puncher.
This is really hard.
it's All right, hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 2 of Party Chat. I'll be your host tonight, Josh. With us we have...
Hi, I'm Spencer.
Hey, it's Nate.
It's Ryan.
Sevy. Tyler, a.k.a. The News.
Mike.
My turn. Mike.
Oh, man, the suspense.
Welcome to episode number 2. A lot of things have not been happening in the gaming world this week, so it's going to be kind of a light podcast. We're basically just going to talk about, what we've been doing and everything in the gaming world and touch on a couple of subjects here and there. One thing I wanted to start off with was there's a board game, and this will lead actually into what you guys actually want to talk about. There's a tabletop board game. Now, we've all played Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. Severin, I don't know if you have you?
Yeah, I have.
You have? Okay, so we're all familiar with tabletop role-playing games and everything like that.
Nerd alert.
Nerd alert.
I mean, you're on the internet right now listening to a podcast, so...
Yeah, that's also true.
Andy?
Also true. This board game is called The Campaign for North Africa: The Desert War. It's a tabletop.
Nice.
It's a tabletop strategy game. Now, I was looking at it on Kotaku the other day, and the board for it is about 6 times a regular Monopoly board. Actually, you know what? We'll go 12 times, because if you stack it side by side and all the way down, it'll take about 12 Monopoly boards to
That sounds awful.
to cover this map.
Well,
No. This doesn't even touch how awful this game sounds. Like, so we would get together for like 6 to 8 hours every weekend and play Dungeons and Dragons. And how long would it take us to get through a campaign?
Months.
Months and months at a time, right? This campaign, to complete a full playthrough of the campaign for North Africa, will take you about 1,500 hours or 62 days.
Dude, fuck that. That took me 2 years to put that kind of hours in on Eve.
1,500 hours. I'm a year.
That's a bachelor's degree.
I'm a year and a half into Overwatch, and I don't even have 1,500 hours. 62 days.
I mean,
That's a bachelor's
to be
degree.
fair, that's probably like the Monopoly games we used to have at Spencer's house.
That's true. That's true.
We did
used to.
link 3 Monopoly game boards together, and that was the worst decision we've ever done.
That was
Ever.
awful. And
Ever.
I
We
think
had like
made
a
drinking
figure
game
8
out
at
of
one
it.
time.
Yeah, it was a figure 8. Yep.
This is one of those situations where it's like, should we? No. Can we? Yeah.
I
Why
mean,
not?
they were so concerned if whether or not they could. They never stopped to think if they should.
I'm gonna be really weird here and just say
No.
I'm super interested in that.
You're super
Well-
interested in this?
I had a weird fetish in my day where I just watched nothing but World War II African campaigns.
What?
So
you're
the
the person
No,
who
actually,
this
no,
game
I
for.
can confirm this.
This is
I-
now a confession podcast.
He's literally the only person in the target audience.
yeah,
I am the target
They
audience.
made the game for Nate.
Yep.
Now that everyone's grandparents are passing away,
All
it's
right.
like, all right, well, Nate's gonna take over.
Nate, tell us about African World War II campaigns.
Oh, it was actually really cool. It was actually like a completely strategic battle in northern Africa where like each side just kept going back and forth, and Hitler actually wound up firing one of his generals who actually lost to, was it Eisenhower? No, not Eisenhower. Oh. Gosh, I can't remember.
Forget his nickname.
It's been a while. It was like 2 years
And
ago. I went
kids?
through the phase.
Yeah, get
Yes.
that SummerSlam match set up between Eisenhower and Hitler. I'd watch that.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Would it be?
WWE Libya. So the game itself covers the World War II operations in Libya and Egypt between 1940 and 1943. Along with this gigantic rule book, and I wish you guys could see this. This rule book is huge. It's like the 7th Harry Potter book plus like War and Peace. It's gigantic.
Jesus Christ.
And the box includes
No, War and Peace.
1,600 cardboard chits, a few dozen charts tabulating damage, morale, and mechanical failure, and a swaddling 10-foot-long map that brings the Sahara to your kitchen table.
What table is 10 feet long?
a
Your
fucking long
kitchen table.
No,
Yep.
we're Vikings now.
Yeah, we're Vikings now.
So, how much does this game cost?
I don't know. I'd have to look. But,
It's got to be expensive.
oh yeah, I'm sure. You can't play with less than 10 players. 5 allied and 5 axis, who will each lord over a specialized division. Well, I guess you could if somebody like took 2 divisions or something like that. But I mean, I guess it's made for 10 players.
So I feel like this game is World History 301.
This
Well,
game
they lost
is
their only
college.
target audience.
Yeah.
They lost their only target audience. I don't have 10 friends.
I don't have 10 friends.
Yeah, we've got
I mean,
we've got
and
8.
if you did have 10 friends, would you have 10 friends that would play this game with you for $1,500?
I would have 0
$1,500.
friends after that.
Fun fact: all our friends are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
let me
don't-
count. I did really good at that with the intro.
I mean, with the exception of World of Warcraft, I don't think I have that much time in any game.
Yeah, we encroached on that on EQ.
That's true.
But beyond that, yeah, there's
Wait, so
Planet Side 1, you had more.
with
Yeah.
with
let's not
how
talk about that.
with how much we've played stupid random games and stuff like that, this game's been out since 1979 and
Holy
sold for $44. Then I don't know what it is now, but that's insane. Oh, in this article, it was talking about some of the absurd rules that it has, and whether or not, or depending on what faction you play, every country has a different rule and stuff like that. Like the Italians, you have to where is it? It's something about a pasta rule. You get a pasta point, and you have to give your troops an extra ration of water, so that they can cook their pasta. And if you don't, you get disorganized, which I mean you lose stats for the next attack and stuff like that. It's
I did hear about
insane.
this game.
I
There's like 7 or 8 different types of resources, and
Yeah.
I've heard about this game. It sounds awful.
this was
Eat
made
the
in the
pasta
70s,
bread,
right?
boy, huh?
It's in the
It's-
They're
70s.
Mussolini.
Severn, we don't need racism.
Yeah. Get
Well,
out
let
of
me
here.
explain a little bit that the Italian forces have to have a pasta point.
Fucking pasta.
I can't believe we just
Which
said
is
pasta
funny because
point.
the debuff is actually what the Italians were in World War II. as
So
well.
the Germans
They
get
were
a,
a
like
debuff.
a bratwurst point or a schnitzel point. What do the Germans get?
Yeah, Schnitzel point.
I believe wrecked is the term.
Yeah.
right.
Oh man.
Now,
Oh,
I
wait,
guess
man.
I guess this game is so in depth. Like every turn, you have to go around and make a pencil note of how much fuel your tanks have, and you have to know what kind of fuel you can put in your tanks and stuff like that. It just there's so much to this game. It would take 1,500 hours to learn all the rules first, and then
Yeah.
play a
Do
game.
you make characters like D&D?
I don't think so. I think you just
You don't even you play that long and you have to like do a pre-made character?
Well, I mean, you don't play
country-
characters. You play countries.
And it's basically like Risk, except
Yeah, that's what it
Worse.
sounds like.
except 10x.
Except worse.
Except like 100 eggs.
I also feel like if this is an accurate representation of like they're trying to be like, oh, let's redo the strategy involved with this, it has the same outcome.
I think
They lose.
Well,
The
I think
Axis loses.
you're not wrong. I think this is apparently it's not the evolution of board games because it came out in the 40s. But this feels 70s. That's
The 40s,
Nailed it.
70s,
If it came
same
out in
thing.
The 40s, that'd be a really weird
Yeah,
time.
yeah, it really would.
I guess that was like when D&D and Traveller and all those games were coming out. So I guess that was like board game heyday.
Yeah.
But This just seems like it released at the tail end of that when they're like, I'm all out of ideas. What
But
do we do?
apparently, there's been like a huge resurgence of this game. Oh, I found the rule. It is affectionately known by the tabletop community as the macaroni rule. The Italian troops in World War II were outfitted with noodle rations, and in the name of historical dogma, the player responsible for the Italians is required to distribute an extra ration of water to their forces so that their pasta may be boiled. Soldiers that do not receive their pasta point may immediately become disorganized, rendering them useless in the field. It's a fact of life, really. If the Italians can't boil their pasta, the Italians may desert.
Oh.
no.
That pun hurt.
Is this whole
Oh
discussion
my
a
God.
lead-in for that pun?
I thought it was a lead-in for Divinity.
Oh man.
It was
a
basically
15-minute setup.
best setup ever.
I mean, that's dedication. You gotta give them props.
Yeah, it is indeed. But I guess, like I said, there's been like a huge resurgence of this game, and I don't know why I've been hearing so much about it lately. But it sounds like if I started playing this game, I'd want to kill myself
Yeah.
With a spoon.
with a spoon.
That would be
Double
actually
spoon.
probably less gruesome.
And for people that don't have a lot of time to devote to tabletop board games like D&D or Traveler or anything like that, it says here that if you and your friends meet up for 3 hours at a time, twice a month, you'd wrap up a single campaign in 20 years.
That's
No.
World War II was done sooner than that, so no thank you.
Right?
When your game lasts longer than actual war, we have a problem.
Yeah.
It was only one part
So
of
when?
the
How
war.
long has this game been out?
Since 79.
Okay, so someone's halfway through their second.
I was gonna say, I wonder if somebody's still working on it right now.
Right?
This game still feels new to me.
I'm still learning.
Just
That would
research the
be-
atomic bomb.
That would be insane. No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
Absolutely insane. No, thank you.
Hard pass.
Dibs on the tiger tanks.
So, a game that I can't get into, but you guys have been playing a lot of, is Divinity Original Sin 2? No,
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you're
Divinity
right.
2? Divinity Original Sin 2. Okay.
Yep,
All right.
nailed it.
It's
I wanna
like
start-
it's like D&D, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to start this out before talking about the game about a story, because myself, Mike, Tyler, and Nate were playing 2 nights
no.
ago
I know
in the
where this
co-op
is going.
campaign.
I know this stuff.
Before explaining any of the systems, anything like that, there was a moment we got into a heated battle in the cooking quarters of the first town you get to. And the multiplayer works where we each take a turn with our party. So Nate had created Tina, a barbarian human
Eat the
warrior.
food.
Mike, what was your fire-breathing lizard's name?
Oh, I think I took that
Oh,
default
s-
name, so Rahimus or
Yeah,
something?
something like that.
Rhinus or something like
Rhaenus.
Who had some summoning abilities along with
that. Rance Priebus.
Rants Priebus.
Well, before you tell the story real quick, what type of game is
it's a
Divinity? I don't
D&D
know.
type game.
Okay.
Uh,
It's
It's
RPG,
a, it's a
RPG
class-
turn-based strategy.
yeah, it's a classic RPG.
Okay. Continue with your story.
Yeah, you all control your own characters, but you're going around like a party in an actual D&D campaign. You come to a town, 2 people could go to the tavern, other people could go do stuff. So it's all done in real time until you hit a fight section. Then it's actual D&D rules where you have action points. Every 5 meters you move is 1 action point, stuff like that. Anyways, long story short, Mike was up there tanking with his fire-breathing lizard paladin totem or incarnate summoning.
Rants Priebus.
Yeah, Rance Priebus. And Tyler, who was playing a Hydrosophist, which does a lot of water and ice magic, cast like an ice storm down near him to kill an enemy. Mike goes to move and slips on the ice that had been created from the storm, nullifying his turn. And then Tyler, what happened after that?
In a feat of great heroism, I dropped an ice spike on the fallen enemy and won the fight for us. But later found out that I actually killed Mike.
So Mike, who had just tripped on Tyler's own spell, had then
Basically
been
had
killed
a
by yeah.
glacier storm rammed up my own ass. Friendly fire style.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason that ice storm was allowed to form was because there was a puddle on the ground that Tyler had done a turn previously
Okay.
from the rain, so which allowed the ice to form. So this
Well,
whole
you're a
game
really
is
bad teammate, Tyler.
Clearly, weather is to blame here.
Inclement weather.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I was on fire the whole time.
I mean, Mike did trip. That happened.
So no,
It
this
was a
this
slip and
game
fall.
is an RPG darling. It harkens back to a lot of your 90s, like your Baldur's Gate, your Fallout series, where it's not a complete open world. It's more linear than that, but there's a lot of broadness to when you get to a town or a hub area of stuff to do. I mean, Mike, you've played it about as much as I have now. What do you think?
Oh, I'm in love with it. I'm. This is really coming from somebody. I despise turn-based games. I can't stand them. I hate them. I like real time. I like adrenaline. I like things, where reaction time is involved. And strategy games, I love them, but not in a turn-based format. And this is one of a couple that I really don't care about that, because I just feel like this is such an awesomely well-rounded title. And there's thought, like last week when we were talking about Stellaris, all the mechanics have so much thought and care put into them, and there's a certain depth to each one. It's not just shallow puddles for everything. The combat system is cool. The voice acting is great. The interactions are really cool. It gives you too, like based on your specializations, it gives you the ability to have unique conversation choices and unique actions that you would not otherwise have on a different build. Which those are old school RPG styles, and
Yeah.
a lot of that's getting forsaken for the 12-year-olds who end up buying the games nowadays, and they just want sweet graphics. So
I think a
it's
good
nice
example
to
of
see
that.
this
And
back.
Diablo 4.
Yeah, but comparing our builds, like you were a lizard, and one of the perks you have as being a lizard is you don't need a shovel to dig. So out of the gate, we could use Mike to dig up treasure if someone's perception was high enough to discover that in the ground. Or like I had an elf, and I could eat limbs to
That stuff
regain
creeps me out.
memories. Yeah, it was really weird, but I could regain memories. So if we saw someone die in combat, and to get more of the story, or maybe even progress a different plot line in a different way, I could eat a limb and get more information that way.
Was it because you were an elf, or are you undead, or what?
No, I was just a regular elf. In this universe, elves can eat limbs and get memories from them.
Oh,
It's actually they very briefly touch on it. It's kind of one of the cool, deeper ways that they sort of architect these races. There's your 4 main races, and then there's undead variants of each one, because you can create a custom class based off of one of these. And the elves can, through taste, basically licking you or eating your flesh, they can actually see and experience memories, which is really useful because there are points in the game where something happened. And
that must get real awkward in the bedroom.
yeah. Oh yeah, baby. You're cheating on me.
You remember that great? Remember that great sex we had? Oh God!
But it's old school RPG style. There's these just different skills, and they come with certain classes and certain races, and there's always a lot of opportunities, but there's always opportunities for you to exploit these unique traits from your build. It just gives you a nice sense of depth to your own character.
Yep. There's the tag system as well. So when you're making your character, or if you use one of the 6 origin classes, so there's 6 characters you can pick when making a character that you can still customize, but they have a bit more flavor to them and a different backstory. But you actually pick the tags that are on your character. So if you want to be like a scholar or a rogue or like a warrior or barbarian, and these give you a whole different bunch of dialogue choices that you can use to solve the different quests. And the game doesn't seem like you can really break it. You could kill a main NPC and still progress through the storyline, just in a totally different way. Or you might solve one of the different situations through combat, or maybe you could skip an entire fight just through dialogue.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of yeah. It's incredible.
Apparently, you can start fights through dialogue, as we discovered.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Right.
I thought you were going to bring up the
What
Bedroll
happened?
story. That was even funnier.
So would you like
That's part of it.
talk shit to a lizard man and tell him his mom was like a
in
was a
lore-
dwarf?
No, in lore, there's obviously, in most fantasy stories, dwarves and elves seem to hate each other, and Ryan was playing an elf and he was talking to a dwarf and apparently managed to piss the dwarf off to the point where not only the dwarf decided to aggro on us and start a combat scene, but half of the town's NPCs, including 2 very important vendors we discovered, decided that they wanted to throw in on this melee. So
Yep.
we ended up massacring half the town, all because I don't know,
Ryan made a short joke.
well, I talked to the dwarf on a separate playthrough, and all the dwarf wanted me to do was sing in the song, so I'm not entirely sure how.
Again, I wasn't totally reading the dialogue either in that situation, so I could have clicked on something. It's also possible, like, we think I might have clicked on something and picked it up off the ground, so it could have been a deep thing. There's a lot of different things it could have
Yeah,
been.
he accidentally steals things.
Well, the bedroll story is even better. So in the beginning of the game, one of the items you can use in your character is bedroll, just to heal out of combat. And each of our characters needed to have one. And Tyler, we got off of the tutorial boat, we'll call it, and onto the main landmass. We came across a small camp with a young girl and like a older lady. And I saw a bedroll, and the lady wasn't around. It was marked in red, obviously, so I knew I was stealing it. So I snuck up to it, grabbed it, and then you could transfer your items between inventories. So I clicked on my inventory and transferred the bedroll over to Tyler. Well, the lady confronted me, and she wanted to look through my inventory. I didn't have it on me, so she was like, "Okay, everything's good." Tyler comes trotting through, and she stops Tyler and says, "Let me see your inventory." Unbeknownst to him, that the bedroll was actually in his inventory or had been stolen, and so we had to kill an old lady.
Yeah, really nice lady with a daughter.
So you killed an old lady because you stole her bed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And put it in
and
Tyler's
for a
inventory.
moment,
and Tyler got
When you-
blamed.
When you put it that way,
What an asshole.
sounds
Yeah.
kind of bad.
It is kind of bad.
her young daughter companion, I thought was going to be one of the enemy combatants as well, and I have to admit the kill children mod in Skyrim sort of popped into my head. I was gearing up for a really tough fight. I think she's going to give us some struggle there, but
Oh yeah,
you know.
it's just the amount of things that game can accommodate for what your choices are is incredible.
She was
And
okay with
I'm in the same boat with Mike, because I hate turn-based games. I hate them. I always have. And I come from a big background of World of Warcraft and stuff, so I'm used to everything being like in the moment. Like, you gotta act now, know your spell rotations, do it all on the fly. So it's a little different for me, but I find, and I think.
But how do
Tyler
you
even
feel
said
about turn-based games?
this, I hate them.
Oh, okay.
But I think Tyler can agree with this. Like, the battles actually literally make you stop and think. Like, you have to process the information for about 1 to 2 minutes to be like, all right, if I move here, he's gonna move
How
here.
long
He
does the
might
battle
hit me.
take?
So it's like
Like,
a
yeah,
chess.
maybe.
It's like a miniature chess game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more or less. It actually involves a lot more strategy than I thought there would be involved in the game, which is definitely a good thing. It makes you think, it makes you work with your teammates. So we're relating information to each other, like, hey, I can put this down if you want to charge in and take him out, and I'll go upstairs and take care of him while you stay down there and tank this.
Yeah,
Oh
It
man,
makes for a really awesome, like, communication aspect and like a good team building, like, foundation. It's awesome.
the element system too. So
Yeah.
obviously, you go ahead and go talk about that, Mike, because you can probably relay it better than I did. Because you played the original Divinity, didn't you?
you know, a little bit, not too
Well,
much.
but
So
before you get into it too heavy, real quick, for those of you listening who don't play CRPGs, and even those of us here that haven't played them, a lot of us played Dragon Age Origins, which was kind of a light attempt at going back to those older mechanics. And you had some of the stuff in Dragon Age Origins, like you put oil on the ground and then you hit it with fire and it ignites it. So
Like Bioshock.
yeah,
It takes it a whole step further.
yeah, it's more in depth, but that's kind of the basis of it. So
Yeah.
like for those of
What
you that
does-
have played Dragon Age Origins,
I'm gonna be the dumb one here. What's CR?
CRPG is just classic RPG. It's that old style. It's like
Classic.
Baldur's
Crazy
Gate,
kids. Crazy kids.
Icewind Dale, Fallout 1 and 2,
Neverwinter Nights.
Wasteland, Neverwinter
Yeah.
Nights.
Here's my thing is with like CRPGs and stuff like that is you guys play them all the time and make them sound so cool. Like you're like, oh, I did this and I did that and I took this shit from this guy and then we fought and and then I play them, and I don't know. I guess I build up these delusions of grandeur in my head, and I don't have the imagination to put it to the game, like to get into characters like you guys do. So when I play them, I'm always like super disappointed. Is this game like that, or is this game more action oriented?
This game, like,
It's. Do
when
you
you
like
talk
Final
about-
Fantasy or turn-based RPGs?
No.
I mean, it's probably gonna be a tough ask for you to get to like this game. I was surprised by this game. Something really unpopular here. I did not like Divinity 1 at all. I just finished playing Pillars of Eternity, which is one of the best CRPGs I've ever played, and I went into Divinity 2 probably a few months after that, and it'd been talked up by the community, and Brent had been talking about the game a lot.
Wait, you
And
went
I
into Divinity 1 after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Divinity Original Sin.
Gotcha.
The first game. And I went into it with like really high expectations. It's like, cool, this is going to be another great CRPG. And like the voice acting wasn't in place yet. I played it with another person. There was 10 hours of on-voiced dialogue before I got into my like first fight after the tutorial. I just had a terrible time with that game.
I think I actually played about 12 minutes of the first Divinity before I wanted to throw myself out my second story.
They did the remastered
window
update after the fact, where they made up for that. I mean, seriously, voice acting was a huge shortcoming on that game. It made the world a hell of a lot more enjoyable just to hear people say the things that you were forced to read all the time, because with that much dialogue, it just gets exhausting.
Oh, it does. So I was like not going to pick this game up, but then I found out it was a $45 release and there was 4-player co-op. So I was like, oh well, that's enough. That's enough reason for me to try this game.
And you had like $40 in Steam credit.
Yeah, I also had. Yeah, I got the game for $5. So you know,
I was.
But a lot of the stuff I did not like about Divinity 1, they have like this game solves for that. So it's full of voice acting, even the narration. They even have a voice actor as for the narrator.
Yeah.
So it's fully voiced, so that's nice. It's a more cinematic experience that way. The class systems are about the same, but they're a bit more in depth. The armor system I like a lot better. And I think, you know, for those that don't like turn-based games normally, the difference between turn-based and real-time or action RPG is, in an action RPG, the decisions you make matter, but they matter less than they do in like a turn-based game, especially this one, because everything you do, you're sitting on long cooldowns, and everything you do has a lot more weight because of the limit you have per turn. So I think that's what I really like about this in turn-based games in general, is the strategy and the level of depth that these games have.
There's also the just to kind of round it back to where we left it, the synergy, not just like in your party builds and whatnot, and that you could build characters that play off of your party members, but also the elemental synergy, the actual magic school, because the armor system that you mentioned earlier just makes melee classes feasible in a game like this, but the magic synergy makes magic playing insanely fun.
Yeah.
Just these different schools that can play off each other. Like I have a fire breathing ability on my lizard. It's a racial ability, and what we've discovered is that I can detonate poison and oil, which basically means as long as I'm involved, we are on fire half the time.
Yes. Very, very much
We
fun.
are always on fire.
I believe the math was 6 out of 5 encounters.
6 out of 5 encounters.
Yes.
125% of the time, 100% of the time. you're on fire.
I'm not a geologist, but I don't think that's right.
But a good example is, so if Tyler makes it rain on fire, it creates a steam cloud.
That's right. I make it rain.
It also puts the fire out, which in turn
puts the fire out.
takes the damage over time off of us.
And it makes everybody wet.
And it also, if you look, I didn't realize this until after, if you're in a steam cloud, it makes the chance for the enemy to hit you lower.
An
also
oyster
blocks your
than an
vision, too.
oyster.
Yeah, it blocks your vision. So
I mean,
it affects
yeah,
what you can
that
hit,
makes sense.
But it also lets lightning arc through it better.
Oh, so
That's
like
actually-
lightning will do more damage?
It'll arc to more people.
It'll arc forever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha,
because the area is more conductive. So
Again.
they've gone that far.
Yeah.
And then just to kind of touch on that with the Steam Cloud thing, there's a whole line of sight system which factors into the sneaking and stealth, because for the guys who love to play RPGs and they love doing like sneak thief type thing, this game really supports that. There's a line of sight stealth system. It's skill based, but it's also line of sight based, and there's patrols and whatnot. You can actually, by sneaking, you disguise yourself as something
Metal Gear Solid style.
in Metal Gear Solid style, but instead of a cardboard box, it would be something that would be found in the current environment you're standing in. So if I'm standing in a bush and I sneak, I become a bush. But as a lizard person, my tail's always hanging out.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of thought into all the mechanics, and it all comes together nice and fluid. Like even with the turn-based system, which you would imagine it to feel a lot slower than most RPGs, it really doesn't. It feels good.
It
Plus
sticks
the-
right in the action. You're pretty well
Yep.
engaged.
Well, Tyler was out of combat that one time and snuck into a battle mid-fight.
And chloroformed a dude.
That's the so the movement in the game outside of combat, it's all real time. I click on the world, I'm gonna walk there, I'm not spending action points to get there, I can do whatever the hell I want. In combat is where the turn-based system happens. But if you were sneaking when your party engaged and you are successfully still sneaking, your party is locked into turn-based combat while you can move around in free time, and then you can actually start lobbing like ambush attacks outside of the turn order. And then once you've engaged, then it puts you into the fight, and then you get absorbed into the turn order, and then it's a normal combat sequence. But it allows sneak thieves and rogues and even sneaky rangers and whatnot to actually do a lot of really cool extra damage outside of the turn order.
So how many hours have you guys put into this game so far?
Oh fuck.
I'm probably 20 hours in.
I
only
bought
got
it
10.
2 days ago.
Yeah, I've got 18 hours right now.
Check my
I
Outlook
have
real quick.
almost 8 hours in already.
All right, so after about so I guess the
12
the average is like 12 to 15 hours that you guys have into it. What's the verdict? Would you recommend it to a friend? Would you recommend it to someone who's never played a CRPG before?
I would.
Yeah.
I would
think-
even
I mean-
recommend it to you, Josh.
Did you like Dragon Age Origin?
I don't think I ever played it.
I would like, for anybody that's never played a CRPG, and you want to try a more modern version of it, I would recommend Dragon Age Origin, because that'll kind of get your feet wet on some of the mechanics.
Now, is this
Um,
like where you you have to plan where you're gonna move during battle, and kind of like a Advance
Not a
Wars,
tactics
or not like Final Fantasy Tactics?
It's not a full-on tactics game, but you do so in combat. It is turn-based, like a D&D campaign, and you have
Right.
action points, and you spend your action points on anything. That's drinking a potion, using a combat ability, and even moving. And it makes sure that it limits your range of motion in combat, and it basically it's a balancing factor.
I got
Yeah,
you.
and you can end a turn early to retain some extra action points for the next
Yes, you can.
turn.
You
You can also
carry
delay your turn to the back of the turn order for that round.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables you can do to make it so. Like an average ability costs 1 to 3 action points. Basic attack is 2. Moving is 1 action point per 5 meters.
Okay.
And what you can do is you start out with 4 each round, but say you use 2, you have nothing else you want to do. You can end your turn early and start with 6 the next round.
All right.
And it's not a grid like field, like a tactics game where you're making these chess moves, 3 up, 1 right kind of shit thing. You can go wherever you want. You're just in combat. You're limited by how many action points you can spend in a turn.
All right, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because in my head I was picturing like this grid and everything.
No,
and...
God, no.
Okay.
Did we
good.
talk about the class system?
All right.
How there's no real classes, it's just you pick 2 skill trees and pray.
Yeah, they give you these starting presets, like a knight preset or a wizard preset that's good at pyro. But at the end of the day, these presets are just these selected traits. Like I have the pyro, I don't remember what they call it, but the fire magic and the water magic, and that makes
Well,
me
it's
a
a lot
wizard.
like Oblivion was, where they had the pre-templated classes, but ultimately you could just start pulling all those different skills out and making whatever you want.
They're just starting skills. You have 2 combat talent points and 1 civic point, some attribute points to start with. But then from there, you can deviate and do whatever the hell you want. So the presets are just kind of something you think you want to play as, but you can change your mind down the road. They don't want you to min-max right out of the gate, and they don't want you to lock in and then feel like you've made bad decisions.
Yep. it even comes down to your party members that you pick up in the single player.
Yeah.
You can, when they join you, they're gonna ask you, "Hey, what should I'm good at this, 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 and this. What do you want me to do?" And then you're like, "Well, I want you to be good at magic." And then I'll bring up a whole nother dialogue like, "Well, do you want me to be good at summoning things? Do you want me
These
to be
are
good at
these are
healing?"
NPCs.
Yep, that's actually that's something to parallel with Dragon Age. Is that the in Mass Effect? These are squad mates. These are possible companions, and they have their own
Gotcha.
storylines and their own backgrounds and their own.
They're all
voices.
really good.
Yeah, really good so far.
Yeah.
There's not one I don't like yet, and I think I've met six of them. Yeah.
What's the dwarf's name again?
Dwarfy.
Beast.
Beast.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a standout. The Red Prince is a
The Red
standout.
Prince
and
is awesome.
Fane.
Yeah, I really like Thane.
Yeah.
He is an undead guy, and what he does is he steals people's faces to blend in.
Yeah.
So part of his early quest line is him trying to figure out how to create a face ripper, I think it's called. And I'm not going to spoil any more than that, but it's entertaining because he's got this really dry, sarcastic humor to him as well. But he's also like a chaotic good character.
Yeah, he's
So
a
being
total
that-
asshole.
He is, but like he enjoys when you make like just decisions towards people. So they're against a lot of like normal D&D archetypes. You think of undead, you think like a chaotic evil or something like that, and they play against those. So it's really well written, fully voiced.
And
So
dialogue.
then you guys would recommend it to somebody who's never played a CRPG to kind of get into things?
I would. This is a really easy game to get a handle of, and if you're at all
Yeah.
familiar with D&D campaigns, it's gonna feel a lot like one. Even to the extent that the enemy AI, they make decisions in combat that you would think a human game master would make. Like,
well, I think the best
they're
example of
surprising.
that is when I chloroformed a spider and it was sleeping. Or the frog. There was two frogs. The other frog,
oh
like,
yeah,
it attacked the sleeping frog to wake it up, and I don't know how many times that's happened in actual D&D campaigns where players will attack each other to break status effects. So I thought that was really cool. Unfortunately, the toad did way too much damage to his buddy, and it was an easy kill. But I
Yeah.
like
That was
the
awesome.
I like the AI decision making behind that.
I got stuck in a fight when I first began, and I had to reload it about 5 times. Every time I reloaded it, the computer-controlled AI reacted differently.
yeah,
It was never something I could kind of map out. Well, if I do this, they'll do this, because there's so many systems on top of systems that it really looks at the battlefield and what's going on and plays accordingly. It's not easy. We're playing on the classic, which is
Yeah,
right above the
like normal,
Explorer mode.
basically.
it's
Yeah,
normal.
normal. There's 2 above that, and I could not imagine getting into that and
No.
having a handle on it yet.
And I've seen the AI like take advantage of environmental traps and wait for people to get within range before triggering them, and it's a calculated
then,
decision. It's really cool.
the wizard that was line of sighting us.
Oh god, what an asshole!
But I think that the real longevity, and I mean, the game is super long, so it's already got a ton of legs on it. But I
Well,
think
that's
the real longevity here is going to be, even beyond that, is going to be there's an actual DM mode where you can build your own campaigns within the game.
Oh yeah, and you can download other people's adventures from the workshop and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'm really interested to see what the community builds. There's a guy who I watch a lot of his Stellaris content, Enter Elysium, and I saw the developer for this game. I can't think of the name of him right now. It starts with an L, I think.
Lathrin? I'll
Something
look
like
it up
that.
real quick.
But they tweeted out. They tweeted out. Apparently, he was 15 hours into a live stream creating a.
Larian Studios.
Larian, thank you.
Yeah.
They deserve to be called out for how good of a game they made.
Absolutely.
He was 15 hours into a live stream of creating his own DM campaign. So the tools are that extensive and in depth that you could really build a fully fledged
That's pretty
D&D
cool.
campaign within Divinity 2.
That is cool.
Not
Especially,
to-
I think D&D is a lot of fun. I think that it's good to play with friends, and that you get some good experiences out of it if that's your kind of thing. But I'm glad to hear that there's a game out there that can mimic the fun that we did have, sitting at a buddy's house around a table for 6-7 hours, reading into this lore and everything like that. But you can do that online, in a different medium,
Tyler
and
summed it up
not like
perfectly.
Roll20 or something like that, where it's just kind of like an online thing. But
Yeah.
this is actual like an interactive, like you're more involved. I feel like for me, it's easier to get into a character in a game than it is like a D&D, where I create it and everything like that. I don't know why, but that's just personal preference.
No, that's a really good point. Mainly because it takes the exhaustion of using your own imagination to visualize your character and visualize these scenarios and all these different ways things can play out, and even visualizing the worlds, the play sets that a GM or a DM has created for you. The game is laid out. It's rendered. It's in front of you. It's here. It is, and so you're looking at these challenges and reacting accordingly, and you get to spend more time in a really good looking and optimized world instead of I remember when I DM'd, I used to draw really quick sketches out on a whiteboard.
Right, and I mean, like our DM who we played with for a while was he would Chromecast things to his TV, so that we could get a better visualization.
Cool.
But not everybody has that resource, to do that. So I mean, it's basically D&D on a tabletop is limited to your imagination, and that's where I feel like this could get more people into it than just people going.
It had the second most concurrent, or it might still have the second most concurrent players right now. So
It's huge.
Oh, for Divinity?
Actually, they had to
Yeah.
day one patch it because of that. They didn't expect the volume of players they ended up getting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Tyler
we've
summed it up
been
perfectly.
we've been on this subject for about 40 minutes now. It's easy to really talk about it for a while. Let's who's got some finishing thoughts on Divinity?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, yeah. Tyler said something at the end of the first session we played it with the 4 players. We spent 4 hours in that one.
Yeah.
And at the end, when we were all logging off after we had saved, I was like, that felt like a real game of D&D. Because we were talking about all the bloopers that happened. The part where the town turned on us, Mike being on the ice and
Getting
getting
slip and fall.
Tina
just
on fire.
It was
Tina
like
on
rolling a
fire.
critical fail.
Yeah, it was the stories you would have with your friends when you're just messing around in a D&D game. But a CPU did that for us. We didn't need a DM. The game provided all of those things with the systems in place. And I'm sure if you were to look at like an optimized path through the first starting area that we didn't touch a thing. We didn't probably do one thing right in order. We probably skipped a bunch of content. We still made it through, killing half the town to where we needed to be. And it felt like I had sat down for 4 hours and played a game of D&D with my friends.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So closing thoughts on Divinity. Divinity Original Sin 2, the best D&D game ever made.
I honestly
Agreed.
think so. I think this
Yeah.
really, you look at it, eventually D&D's got to transition to digital form, and this is a really cool way to do it. Also, just my closing thought, this was an early access title. This was announced. It came out in early access as a playable alpha. It went through its entire dev process. I wish-listed it, and I watched it for months, watching this thing successfully build, and everybody was just raving about it. And then day one patch rolls around when it releases, and it's 16 gigs of voice-acted content and all the undead classes and whatnot, and they met their dev goals. I mean, you're looking at a project that was an obvious passion project from Larian Studios, and released best case scenario for an early access title. This was the best way it could have happened, and because of that, they had all this player feedback. And so their game, aside from the multiplayer glitch, it worked out of the gate. It just fucking worked.
Now
And it's so rare.
That's something that I know I wanted to touch on as well tonight was the state of early access gaming and what I guess it's turned into. Because I mean, it used to be like, you'd get into a closed beta or an alpha test or something like that, and not all your friends would be able to play it. And you'd be like, oh my god, this is so cool. Like I remember Ryan creating a fake Walmart so that we could get into a Gears 3 beta.
I remember that.
So but
Yep.
Tyler and I were talking about this the other day at lunch, and I know we talk about it in chat sometimes, but now it's like everything's early access. They charge you $20, $25 for it, and then they start implementing these things where basically free testers now that we actually pay them to test their game to see what it needs. And I mean, I fucking hate that shit. Like, it pisses me off to no end when I have to pay for this game that, you know, I'm gonna end up paying for twice because they're gonna come up with DLC that's actually just shit that should have been in the game.
And that's only happened once.
I mean, not
it
just
Ark?
once. I mean, yeah, Ark has done it.
Arc is where it started to get really rotten.
Right.
It wasn't always this way. I like the idea and concept, but there have been some pretty
Well, and they like with Fortnite, because they released that new stuff, and they're so this is a whole nother thing, but they released the game. Well, they did the early access for
It's still early
the base
access.
game. What's that?
It's still early access.
It's a
Right,
free-to-play
it's
title
early
eventually.
access. It is. So it's early access. It's got its own game mode, and then obviously PUBG was super popular. They made a mode in that, released it on top of the base game, which some people are upset with because here they are working on a whole nother mode of the game that has nothing to do with the base game, why people purchased in the first place. They've now come back and on the 23rd, I believe, the Battle Royale mode is going to be free. It's free to play. Anyone that purchased Fortnite for that Battle Royale mode can get a refund for the money that they spent, since they're going to this free to play for that particular. It's like two separate games now,
Here's a
basically.
question. Fortnite's eventually going to be a free-to-play game.
Yeah, 2018.
So they're releasing
Yeah.
the mode they made extra to mimic PUBG for free before they release the base game. It's supposed to be free to play. It's still behind a paywall.
Right. And I
Okay,
guess what I was talking more about was not necessarily paying for DLC in early access titles, is more or less an early access title that comes out that's not a fully fleshed out game, but
Right.
has fully fleshed out microtransactions.
So here's my big problem with Fortnite, and it's a couple things. So to preface this, I had a lot of fun with the founder pack. So I paid $40 to buy in early, and I relatively enjoyed the time that I had. And you know, then I was like, okay, well, I'll revisit this game when it releases. I got a bunch of extra stuff. I'm feeling pretty good about things. The problem now, however, is that they're releasing a brand new mode to mirror a popular game, which I anticipate they're going to use to get people to buy into the Founders Pack before it goes early access. So that's problem number one for me. Problem number two
Well-
is that there is a box copy retail release of this game. Nowhere on the box does it say early access. That's where it gets really rotten for me, is the fact that they're putting this game on store shelves, not telling people it's early access, and people are buying it off the shelf before it goes free to play in 2018, and it's not even a full release. Like, that's just
Right.
crazy to me. How can you get away with that?
I think it's risky and stupid as well, because Steam already ran into that with their own early access program, which is why every early access title is basically prefaced with the warning that it is an early access title, and every developer is required to put that in now. Because the problem with the program, what ended up happening was, in concept, it's a cool theory, because I really don't have a problem with paying a discounted price to be an early adopter, jumping in and playing the title as it is and helping, because that's what you are. You're not buying the game, you're buying into the dev process, and you're an early adopter, and there will be risks inherent. What nobody really thought about, and they really should have, was that the major risk inherent of being an early adopter in an early access program is that the developers might not finish the damn game.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what's happening. It's rare to see a title actually come out of early access.
Yeah.
And the other
solid quality.
thing that's happening too, and this is less the developers and just the nature of the beast, is that when I get early access games, I hardly ever play the best version of that game. Like, I don't know that I can think of any games that I've played in early access that I've then turned around and played once they got to full release.
Yeah, I mean, you always put the hours in when it's buggy and glitchy and everything, and you have your fun with it, and then the full game comes out and you're like, I already put 40, 50 hours into that game, I'm good.
Yeah, and that's I think that's the most frustrating thing. So for me personally, I think I'm ready to hang up the early access gloves and
Yeah, I
just
can't-
start waiting
I've
for
gotten
games to
pretty
come out.
lucky. I think the only real early access game I bought into way early in development was Dirt Rally, and I bought that probably a little over a year before it was released when it was
That in
still in
early
alpha.
access? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
like
it was
early
early.
access for a year and a
I bought
half.
it for $20.
Yep.
Back when it was early access, and I gotta say that
That game's really good, isn't it?
those
Yes.
guys followed
Yeah.
through with their promises. I mean, they're still updating the game. Even after Dirt 4 was released, they were still releasing new content for it. They released the Rallycross updates all for free. And that was one of the ones that promised all this stuff for free, and they followed through, which is really awesome. But I think the reason they were able to do this was because Dirt 4 was on the back burner that they knew they'd be making money on. It's their Monster Energy stupid D-bag release game that's got all the hooligan shit in
Well,
it.
then you've got like just the complete blatant example. And I know, Mike, I don't know what your opinions are on this because I know you've dumped a shitload of money into Star Citizen. Like, are we ever gonna see that game?
What is the Star Citizen?
Mike, how much money have you
No.
dumped into Star
I
Citizen?
don't want to talk about it. Let's not.
How
talk about
much?
it.
How much?
No, I'm not talking about it. But let's let's just say it's been spread out over. Okay, so
Well,
This is your intervention.
You started talking to
No.
me about Star Citizen in like 2013 or so.
2012. I think I got into it 5 years ago.
Does it rhyme with
Jesus.
1,000?
But see, that's the main argument with Star Citizen that people don't understand. And the difference here is that they've been taking money for 5 years. But games take this long to develop. This is not new. This is not a foreign concept. It's just that they've been able to take money for the entire duration because it started as a Kickstarter. And so now they've got all this undue scrutiny. And it's frustrating to be a fan of this project because I am an absolute diehard fan of this project. And again, early access, early adopter risks inherent. I was aware of those when
Right.
I originally pledged, but I love it. I love what this could be, and that's why I bought into it.
Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people, and I listened to a podcast the other day, and I never thought of it that way because I've always been like, man, Star Citizen is taking forever. But they actually, when they started that campaign, it wasn't a game like it was concepts at that
Absolutely.
point. So to
referencing
where a lot of
Beastcast?
games, when they start Kickstarter, that kind of stuff, they've got at least the ground floor laid, so it'll won't take nearly as long to where
And-
this is an actual full-fledged from the very beginning, from concept art and built up, and that takes, I mean, years and years. I mean,
And Chris
a normal
Roberts-
game, like a quick game, Call of Duty, or not even Call of Duty, just a lot of games like that, more cookie cutter, take
Yeah.
3-4 years. And this is, I mean, this game has never been done before. So
I know.
5,
Call of
6,
Duty-
7 years is not a
Yeah, and Call of Duty is a good example. because They're on a
Unrealistic.
3-year dev cycle. They have 3 studios pumping them out. They have established engine, and they're still pumping one out every 3 years from a studio.
Right,
So, yeah,
but they
they're
don't,
starting
and
from
they also don't really change much from year to year.
You
Even-
know,
no
So
minor
I was-
engine work and
I got in to Star Citizen right after I missed the Kickstarter, and I kicked myself in the ass because I'm pretty sure I looked at it one day and I decided no. And then it got bigger than the Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter ended, and I think the Kickstarter, they blew their Kickstarter goals out of the water, and it was like, holy shit, we've got something. 'Cause, one of the really coolest things is that these dudes, they do weekly podcasts and interviews and whatnot just to keep the content flowing. And the project got so big, they took it to their own website and they just kept collecting money, and they kept going and going and going. And I think the original goal was like $2 million, and they broke 159 million last week.
Oh my.
So they're huge now. And that's the biggest thing is you can't look at this project with $159 million in money, over a 5-year span of crowdfunding and say, but they're still building that $2 million game. It's like, fuck no. The project succumbed to scope creep, and it should have when your funding has gone up by a factor of 75. So, I mean, the case in point, they were doing some crazy ass demo. I had no idea how they were going to render this game prior to having all this money, but when they got all this money, they went to Crytek and they actually bought the source code for CryEngine 3. So, and then they customized it and did a huge 64-bit conversion. So they actually have their own customized version of CryEngine 3 now.
So this is more like, this isn't to be a dick, but I'm just curious now at this point. So we're 5 years into development. What cycle, what phase are we in of
So
development?
So the way they like to talk about it is they've got all these major core elements, these modules, if you will. And all these components will fit together. But right now there's dogfighting, and it's a playable module. It's an alpha module that you can play in its own. And that's wave defense kind of stuff, PvP matches, and that's allowing them to fine tune their ship pipeline, their ship development, and all the components and weapons there, and the ship to ship balance, which is really neat. Then there's Star Marine, which is their arena-based PvP stuff right now, which is allowing them to fine-tune the asset development for the individual player characters and the player versus player combat as an individual character, not as a spaceship. Then they've got this baby persistent universe, if you will, but it's not persistent yet until the 3.0 update rolls out. And that module has a single star system. It's got a starting spawn point, which is one star base. There's missions all over the place, and that's where you can test out the open world aspects, the free flight, piracy, NPC missions, that kind of thing. When the 3.0 update rolls out, that's when they're adding in a lot of the basic job modules, and they're tying in everything. Player versus player combat as individual characters, ship versus ship combat, the mission systems, mining, trading, that kind of thing. So you're basically looking at it as we're playing multiple portions of an alpha, but the next major update is like the actual multiplayer persistent universe alpha. And at that point, we will have what could be considered a legitimate alpha candidate for this title.
Yeah, so you're kind of like in pre-alpha now, and then when
Basically.
you get your universe, you'll have alpha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm super curious to see how that turns out. It's so crazy because there's not been anything like this before, and it's one of those things. I think it's either gonna produce one of the best video games of all time, or it's going to destroy crowdfunding.
Oh yeah, that really is the split. And I drank the Kool-Aid, man. I am in on this project, but the risks are there. I've recognized the same thing. This will be a humongous scandal, or it will legitimately be one of the absolute coolest MMOs ever played. And it's the kind of game like EVE Online, they could make it run 10, 15 years if they wanted to, because mechanically and functionally, and that if you follow the dev process, they are all about building strong core, strong foundation, and then building their assets and their features around that strong foundation. And if it means they have to go back to the drawing board and redo some stuff so that they can fit better mechanics in down the road, they're going to do it because they want this title to last.
I watched a really interesting video on it where they were talking about their head bobbing in the game. Like, they were so fixated, and when you're in your player character, about having the proper head bob, so it wasn't disorienting, but it looked realistic. And they used the model of a chicken or a bird and how they have the gyroscopic head. So you can hold the
saw
body.
that video.
Yeah,
I did watch that too.
And it's crazy because that's not that much attention to detail goes into things, and they are sitting there and reworking this system for just how your head moves when you're walking around as a human being. Or
is there going to be VR?
I think so. I don't remember what platform they decided to.
That's where, I mean, that kind of, well, just that attention to detail on like the head bob makes me think VR.
Yeah, this was a couple years ago before the Vive and the Oculus Rift
Sure.
hit. Do they have like a rough system requirements for that yet?
Not really, but you could really look at what would be a top-end build maybe last year as a good recommended computer at this point. So, like, there was I think it was a Tom's Hardware article that came out last week that was talking about the top 10 graphics card melting games out there, and Star Citizen was like number 6, and frankly, it didn't even deserve to be on the list because it's not taxing computers anymore. The biggest slowdown, if you ever really look into the current alpha candidates and actually see what people are saying about its performance, it has nothing to do with CPU or graphics power. It's actually their current state of their netcode, the communication between client, server, and client, which is actually something that it's another one of those core mechanics that they've gone back to the drawing board, and they've completely engineered their own netcode system that they're going to be deploying, I think, with the big next major 3.0 release, or one of the updates after it. I can't remember, but that is where the performance slowdown is right now. So from a hardware standpoint, Like my rig, I've got a 1080 and I've got a Skylake, and I'm fine.
You got
I'm
1080
good.
Ti.
Yeah.
You didn't mention the Ti.
Of course you're gonna be good. You got a 1080 and a Skylake.
No, but
I mean,
the 980 Ti can handle it. The 1070 can handle it.
Yeah.
So a lot of current gen and last gen hardware they're fine. You're good.
What about
okay.
my little 480?
Your toaster is not gonna work here.
Damn
I mean, the
it!
480 is an 8 gig card, but your CPU would be bottlenecking it.
I have another topic to bring up.
Okay.
So, to bring it back around a little bit, I mean, not background, but so, crossplay. Okay, and I don't know, obviously you guys aren't in, you guys are Master Race now, so this doesn't really apply to you guys anymore. But the scandal this last week, so Sony's kind of been on this, you know, we're not doing crossplay with anybody, you know, security reasons, you know, we can't trust anyone else with our players.
They can't trust
systems and all that
themselves.
stuff. They can't trust themselves. So that's just a straight up cop out. But the other day, so there's always been kind of like, because people have always said how easy it would be just to flip a switch, you know, to make this happen, right? To make crossplay, you know, just give us the go ahead, and 10 minutes later we'll have it up and running. Well, in Fortnite, because it's obviously in beta, so they're in the battle royale mode, there was a glitch, and some people were playing, and they noticed, because of the people they were playing with, that they had just been killed by somebody whose name had a space in it. Their gamer tag had a space, right? This is a PS4 person. They're like, well, that's weird. It's like, it's like, well, how's there a space there? Because that's not possible on PS4. Did some searching, and they happened to have both a PS4 and an Xbox. Did some searching. Sure enough, he was on Xbox. So it just blew up as some maybe hidden new feature, you know, yada, yada, yada. It's all over Reddit. Well, it was a glitch. It is so easy for crossplay to take place that it accidentally got turned on. And then they fixed it, and Sony blew a lid, and they fixed
Well,
it.
yeah, I
the
mean,
whole
look
thing.
at Rocket League. It was the first major release title. Well, I mean, indie title, but it has Xbox, PS4, and PC crossplay, and
Yep,
soon to
and-
be Nintendo.
Yep, soon the
It's
Switch
not-
will join that rank.
If a little game like Rocket League from Psyonix can do it, AAA titles can do it. It's not.
No, yeah, and it's not even. So there's crossplay between all of them, but Sony will only work with PC. They won't do anything
Yeah,
with
it's
other
Sony-
consoles. They'll do Sony to PC, but not Sony to another console.
But I mean,
Same
you
with
can
Minecraft.
play with PS4
they're
players on Rocket League if you're on Xbox, can't you?
No, Xbox
It's
goes
with
to
the
PC.
PC.
Yeah. And then
Oh,
PC
yeah,
will
yeah,
go with
that's right,
Xbox
that's
or
right.
PS4.
Yep.
Which is hilarious because I think PCs are more vulnerable than consoles are.
Yeah,
There's more of
absolutely.
your information stored on your PC than a console.
I mean, hacking a console is way less heard about than somebody hacking a PC or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't autofill their passwords on a fucking Xbox.
I was gonna say too. It's
Says
really
the
easy to hack
IT
into
guy.
a potato.
And then you can look at crossplay as well. Look what Microsoft just did with Minecraft. It's literally crossplay between like PC and an
Crossplay
iPhone.
and cross save.
Oh, and
Between
Android,
PC and an iPhone.
Yeah.
And now they have MMO servers. I can
No,
literally play Minecraft with you guys on my cell phone if I wanted to.
Yeah, before I got my computer up and running, we started a Realm, and I didn't have any way to play with them because Realms wasn't on Xbox yet. So I downloaded Pocket Edition on my phone. I sent my phone picture to the TV, and I Bluetoothed the controller to my phone, and I played Minecraft with everybody that way.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Worked flawlessly.
Yeah.
Switch is
So-
Switch is getting the Bedrock
It's-
Edition in December as well. So Nintendo, Xbox, and PC will all.
Well, and that's
Yeah,
what
play
like
together.
Phil Spencer, he was like offended. With Phil Spencer being the director of Xbox, who just now got a promotion, by the way.
Congrats,
Where do
Phil
you
Spencer.
go from director of Xbox?
So he
Bill
was.
Gates.
So he was the head of Xbox.
He's Bill
He
Gates
is now on the. He's now in the inner circle. He's on the board of.
Is this
He-
Scientology?
He's the
executive-
Xbox Illuminati.
What's his
He's
Thetans?
the. So
He's
he
the
sits
Red
on the
Ring.
senior board, leadership board for all of games. So like the video game, he oversees everything now. To where he had a
Microsoft.
boss before. Now he directly reports to
Phil
the
Spencer
CEO.
sees all.
But anyway,
Illuminati confirmed.
That's what because they had an interview. Giant Bomb had an interview with him, and he's like, so tell me about this Sony debacle. And he's like, I think the whole thing's just stupid. Like, they're worried. It said they're worried about security. They told him this, and he's like, "You think I'm not worried about security?" And he's like, "We've got Nintendo on board. If anyone's concerned about security, Nintendo is." Like, so he's like, it's kind of, he's salty about the whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
just trust that.
I
it's
think a
gonna
lot of
work
it
out.
has to do with
It's-
that Sony is kind of winning the console wars per
Well,
se.
they
you could
are.
say.
They have such a
And-
big
and they don't
install
want to
base.
give up their IPs and all this garbage.
Yeah,
and they
I mean,
wanna protect all this
Sony's
stuff.
not in a position that they need to do this, so they're just
No.
No,
They don't
they're
have
not
to
hurt.
give up their IPs. I mean, allowing crossplay does not mean giving up all of your intellectual property. If you want, Final Fantasies to stay on the PlayStation, the fucking developers just don't need to build for the Xbox. That has nothing to do with Sony.
I think it's I don't agree with what's happening because I think ultimately at the end of the day, like the gamer should win. But Sony's just like, we don't need to give any reason for Xbox players or for people to buy Xboxes.
Yeah. Do you guys
They're-
think it comes down to what happened? Was it 2012 or 2013, the PlayStation Network outage, and all that data that got leaked out of there?
That's the
No.
hypocrisy of the situation.
No.
Is them citing they can't trust anybody else to
Yeah, that's what I was
architect some
referencing.
sort of access here, and they were the ones who what were they forced to pay
And
out
actually,
for
it
security
happened again
checks?
the other.
Oh, an
it happened again
insane
this year.
Oh, for Christ's sake!
Well,
Yeah.
did you see the
Jesus.
Rainbow Six debacle now? New patch came out for Rainbow Six Vegas, and on PlayStation 4 hardware, if you open up your friend menu, you will toast your hard drive.
So
Whoa.
that's not good. What I think this is so we all have Xboxes because that's what we play online with, right? We can all
We
play games
did.
together because we all have. Well, yes, before, but the before times.
Master Race, PC
The
Master Race.
land before time.
And before,
In the
But-
Dark Ages.
But we all
You
like
mean my
I
Netflix
bought.
box.
Yes, that thing used to play video games.
No.
No, like so I bought an Xbox because all of my friends had an Xbox and I wanted to play games with them. But if all of a sudden
us.
there was crossplay with PS4, let's say there's I'm going to buy a PS4 because all my friends are on PS4. Oh, wait a second, I could play games with my friends no matter what console they have. Oh, I think I like Xbox exclusives better. I think I'm going to get an Xbox and because I can still play games with my friends on PS4. I think that's the door that Sony's trying to close by removing this crossplay.
I mean,
No,
but
it
literally, your reasoning right there is the only reason that I held on to an Xbox as long as I did is because everybody played on it.
Did we lose Fox?
Fox, come back.
Hello,
You're
Hi,
cutting out.
You're,
Baby, come back.
I'm cutting out.
you're good.
Am I back?
You're good.
Okay, so your reasoning for that was basically the only reason that I held on for an Xbox as long as I did, and the reason I built a computer when I did, is because everybody was transitioning, and the last thing that I want to do is play games by myself. I mean, I really don't play any. says our console man.
He's gonna build a PC.
I really don't play any single player games. Like right now, even when I do, I'm always in Discord or Party or something like that with you guys and talking and dicking around and joking and everything. So, I mean, to have a console that can only play X titles and I can't talk to my friends while I play these titles, I mean, that would be asinine for me. And that's the reasoning behind my choice I was on Xbox for so long and then I moved to PC. Obviously, I'm a much better person now that I've moved to PC.
But with that, it goes back to when did I build my first computer, Ryan? That was what, 2010, 2009?
Yeah. Because
actually, I built my first gaming computer when the APUs from AMD came out, which were meh. But I had done a dual graphics build with a 1 gigabyte discrete graphics card, stuff like that. It was nothing special, but it was my first gaming computer.
Sick.
And
And we
when
played
I-
a lot of SWTOR.
and World of Warcraft.
Oh god.
That computer, interesting story, just to take a side tangent, was in a closet for a year because something fried
because
on
it
it.
tipped over and something wouldn't boot. And then I ripped it all apart wire by wire, put it back together, and it booted up just fine.
Yeah,
And
1 year
it's-
later.
The motherboard and everything still works to this day. But
You still
it
have
goes
it?
back. The reason why I built that computer is because I saw what was happening with the console wars between 360 and PS3 back in the day and all this other garbage. And I saw all these titles coming out for PC, and I was like, I really want to build a PC. Like, there seems to be some really interesting titles coming out. And then as the years progressed, as I slowly upgraded my computer and stuff, I noticed a little bit of a trend that people were starting to lean towards releasing titles on both PC and console. And it started to get a little bit better and a little bit better. And there's still some optimization issues and some developers that don't give a shit, more or less. But I'm noticing now that, you know, even with Microsoft, they're realizing, hey, we've got a large market on PC. Let's release games for both and let's optimize for both. Their first attempts were pretty terrible. Gears of War. But now things are starting to smooth out. They're starting to get a little bit of a trend going where it's actually working. Forza Horizon 3 was a good example. I was able to play with Spencer. He was on Xbox. I was on
Would
PC
it?
flawlessly. No issues there.
Yeah,
So I'm
you
starting to
couldn't
see-
even tell.
Yeah, it's starting to see a little more meddling pot, and especially with case sizes. Case sizes are getting so small. There's so many Kickstarters out there for these mini ITX builds for these cases that are like 3 liters in size, and you can fit a mini ITX board. You can slam a 1070 mini in there, and you
Didn't know
can have
they'd
this
measure
like.
cases and displacement.
This is actually a fact. They do.
They do.
But which is funny because on Linus Tech Tips, he also compares them to ketchup bottles.
I'm
For
throwing
displacement.
mine in the bathtub.
Well, I think the big thing about building a PC, Nate, you helped me build my first one. What,
Mhm.
2014?
Yeah,
And-
it was about 2013 actually.
Yeah, you helped me build my first one, and you did most of the build that time. And then when I redid it and kind of ordered everything myself, I talked to you, made sure all the parts were good, and learned from there. But when you build it, you are a lot more attached to what you are using.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just
Also, it costs a lot of money.
it does cost a lot of money, and it's a sickness where you're ordering parts every paycheck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it costs a lot of money if you
If
don't
you
have
want it.
friends that
I
give
mean, you
you a
can
bunch
build
of free
a budget
parts.
computer for $500 and have
Yeah.
you can have a 1080p killer. It'll beat an Xbox One easy, PS4 easy. You can adjust your settings, get 60 frames a second.
Sure.
Or you can be like Mike and I. I mean, we're both running 1080 Ti. I have mine hooked up to a 4K screen and stuff like that. You can go all out. If you have the money and the means and you want to do it, do it. It's a hobby. It's fun. You don't have to feel bad about spending the money if you have
You're not doing crystal meth.
yet.
We solved drugs again.
There's
we
just
could.
such a wide range of things you can do with it. And you can build an HTPC. You can build a home theater PC and have it do movies, do games, do streaming, do everything like that, and have it tucked away in the corner and have it even look good. I mean, it can be a art piece.
The one thing I know that I'm turning around on you guys a little bit, and okay, I'm gonna get a PC, yada yada yada.
It's harsh, bro.
The one thing where Xbox One X and S, and even the S really, outdoes a PC is for
Go ahead.
multimedia. Is for multimedia. If you have a 4K TV and you want 4K Blu-ray, Xbox One S is the only way to. It's your only option. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, I mean, I can
the,
buy a
am-
Blu-ray
the
player
amount
for
of
more.
money. What's that?
My real question though is who's watching Blu-rays in 2017?
4K Blu-rays. I have one.
Yeah, but
Isn't, isn't Netflix streaming
Wow.
in 4K now though?
they are.
Not they. It's not the same. There's
you can only
a
stream in
huge
4K Netflix if you have the new Intel processors,
Mhm.
which is really stupid. They added that codec in.
They call it Super 1080p as well.
But they yeah, so I mean there's a difference between a physical copy of something and digital when it comes to the bit rates and a whole bunch of technical stuff that I don't even quite understand. But
And hard drive sizes
obviously
kinda
it's like
caught
the
up.
difference between going wireless with your router and going hardline.
Ooh, going hard. Going hard.
Because there's a wireless standard for 4K, you know.
It is, but it's still not the same. It's not
But,
the same as.
I mean, you're right.
Off a disc.
I could buy a 4K Blu-ray player for $300, or could buy an Xbox One S with a 500 gigabyte hard drive for $250. The value is there definitely in that.
I
But
think
I
the
could also buy
obsession to
go
get
ahead.
true 4K over slightly less than true 4K, that's probably a negligible difference. I'm not going to spend
big
$500 on a console
Well,
just
sure.
to get.
Well,
5K.
the big thing, more so than maybe the difference in quality, and this doesn't apply to us, but there are a lot of places that have data caps, and 4K streaming is just not possible. If you want 4K, you have to go disc because you'll hit your data cap in a month.
Yeah, take that, Comcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody with a
So
data
that's
cap
that's-
sucks. So.
Yeah, that's true.
I have
Uh,
a data cap.
And we lost
you
half
suck.
our listener base.
Do you really mind?
I do. I'm in a test area. I'm in Chicago, so west of the burbs, and I have
What
a
is
1
the data
terabyte
cap?
per month cap.
Okay.
You got a
And I'm,
Comcast?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
what
Unfortunately.
competitor is there?
There isn't. Well, that's
Exactly.
Well, that's a topic for another week. But
Yeah,
This will be
that's
next week when we talk
definitely
about data caps.
another
Because
topic.
otherwise-
I said we were going to keep it light this week. We're already at
yeah,
about an
good
hour
short
and
show,
15.
everybody.
Hour and 15 minutes. Anybody
Well.
else have anything that they want to talk about before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah.
No,
Yes,
really, just in closing,
I swear to
I
God.
think we can all agree. Thanks for joining, everybody. The place to play Xbox One X.
Is the
It's,
pizza.
it's not. The place.
No one likes to play a game of potatoes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I do have a topic to bring
I
up.
can cook a potato on my 1080.
I mean, Spencer,
I got a
you
clock out
can
of
you
a
can
potato
speak for
once.
yourself on this one. But the place to play by yourself, Xbox One X.
Oh.
Speaking of free-to-play early access game, Destiny 2, everyone.
I do have one legitimate closing thought.
Okay.
Sleeping gets in the way of playing Divinity 2. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it does.
And work.
We
Give
should end
give
this.
one of them up.
Let's end this podcast so we can play some Divinity.
No Sleep 2017.
I want to go create my little paladin.
I'm
We're
not
already
gonna
at
smack
10
people.
o'clock.
All right, everybody. Have a
Bye,
great
everybody.
week. We'll see you next week.
Adios.
Bye-bye.
Bye.